Hi, everybody. Um, I'm happy to be here and happy to talk about this topic. Today, we're going to talk about promoting independent play in young children. The reason I wanted to do this topic is because I feel that right now, while we are dealing with social distancing and staying at home with our families, safer at home, that this is the strongest tool that Rye has in its repertoire to offer to the parents. I am here in my house with my four kids, and having promoted independent play since the time that they were very young, they are now able to choose what they're going to do, and I'm not the cruise director in this house, which is thank goodness, because I could not handle it if I were. All four of them go off and do their own thing, and it's because they have been allowed to independently play since they were very, very small. And so I want to give you guys some tools and some ideas about independent play to help you promote independent play in your children at home, especially right now. But because the advantages of independent play are much broader than just this particularly crazy moment that we find ourselves in today. So a few things. Um, as I've been saying, you've heard me say that already. The benefits of independent play to me, and that is to me the brilliance of Rye is that it also takes the parent into consideration. You know, it's an infant and toddler approach that takes the parent very much into consideration. And the benefit of independent play for the parent is that you can step away. You can occasionally, go send that email or finish the dishes or even go to the bathroom by yourself every once in a while. And it's the brilliance of the approach. It gives you peace of mind. You are not 100% on all the time. You're not even 50% on with your child all the time. You literally get to step away and be a separate person every once in a while. And I think that is so important than always being constantly on. We cannot be our most attentive and our best selves with our children 100% of the time. So the benefits are that I get to step away. I get to do my thing every once in a while. I get to take care of, check some things off my list. Now, I will say that especially when the children are very young, your independent playtime is tiny. um, young babies need to nurse every 2 hours, or they need to nap every 30 minutes. So your independent play time when you're not caregiving is very tiny, but it's there. And if we nurture it when they are older, you get more of that time. You get more of that time. And the other great thing for parents about independent playtime for their children is that it's guilt-free, because it is good for that child. I tell you, as a working mother of four, anything that is guilt-free as a parent, I love it, because I know that they are doing something good for them that is also good for me. It is a win-win situation, because the child in that independent playtime, they are building all of the wonderful qualities, wonderful characteristics that we want them to build. They are self-initiating their play. They're finding what they want to do. They're inner directed. They're deciding, oh yeah, this is what I feel like. This is what motivates me. This is what I'm going to do. They're curious about things. They're exploring. They're focusing on things. They're gaining all of those skills that we want. They're becoming more confident, more attentive, all of the stuff that we are hoping that they build. And they're doing this time. They're becoming problem solvers. They're working on things. This is great time for them. There's no need to feel like, oh, I'm abandoning them, or I'm not, being attentive to them, because they're doing exactly what they need to be doing right now, in exactly the way they need to be doing it, in exactly the pace that they need to be doing it. There's no one there giving any input, because they're playing independently. So it's not, oh, can you go further with that? Or do you want to try this now? No, it's all coming from them at their pace, in their way, and in their time. So we can really feel great about that that is good for them and it's good for us. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. I'm going to let you hear from our mentor, Magda Gerber, our founder of RIE, and she'll tell you. So hold on a second. I'm going to share my screen, and you can hear from Magda.
Talk about this mobile infant, the toddler, the child between 6 and 15 to 18 months of age. How should that child be treated by a caregiver?
The number one thing wherever you keep a baby is to create one safe space. So their natural inborn desire to move should not be handicapped by the environment. So they have enough space, safe spaces, of course, obvious. First of all, when we talk about the infants, to go back to the first stage, who we call immobile, baby is never immobile, because even a newborn kicks around and can get from the middle of a bed, fall off. I believe that infants from day one are autonomous, or let's say competent for the age and stage they are at. At that point, they become more mobile every single day and see if that younger baby was allowed to move around, then they will do exactly the movements that they are ready for because they have the opportunity.
Let's take a child, again in this middle age range, 13, 14 months of age, 12 months of age, something like that. Using your philosophy of infant care, what are the discipline techniques that you recommend? How do you recommend the caregiver act when a child needs to be somehow limited?
First of all, I do like a child to know at very early ages house rules.
House rules.
House rules, whether the house is a family daycare or it's a center care or the family or whatever. This is what I expect in this environment. I find it easiest, we already talked about it, to have one place in which the child is allowed, in which it is okay to do anything they want to do. That's that famous, absolutely safe but challenging environment where I don't have to say, don't touch this. Then you have that as a beginning. From this place you go out. Let's say in another room where there is a television set. There is something that you don't want the child to use. And then you are starting discipline. I mean, you start it really from the very beginning, in which you say, I like to say, I don't want you to touch the TV. Personally, I like to tell a child, I talk about me, not we don't do those things to me. That's a little bit going around the issue because another person may not mind. So I just like to communicate my message, and I communicate it very clearly and simply.
Okay. That was Magda in her own words. And part of what she was talking about there is the free play space, or what we often call the yes space, because everything in there is yes, it's okay, you can play with this. So I wanted to talk about that space a little bit. It has to be totally safe. And when Magda was asked, what does that mean? She said, if you were somehow locked out of your house and your child was in the safe space, they might have a dirty diaper and be mad at you. I'm paraphrasing. And by the time you got back in, but they would be totally safe. So not safe except for that one lamp that I hope that they don't pull over on themselves, because you have to feel comfortable walking away. and not be going, oh my gosh, I hope I can shower fast enough that they don't pull that lamp out on themselves. No, totally safe. It's great to have, if you have the space, to have multiple inside spaces, safe spaces. That's wonderful. Safe spaces outside are also great. And so that you can move outside. A child outside, the time they spend outside is so beneficial for them. There's so much to see, so much to do, the wonderful fresh air. I have some photos of safe spaces that I want to share with you, and then we'll talk about them a little bit as to like what's great about this one, what's not so great about this one. And sometimes there's great and not so great in one place. So let's take a look at these. I'll share these photos with you. This one I liked because I like the natural light in this one. I like that there is a lot of natural light available in this space and lots of space to move around. Let's see. This one, it's got lots of great space, but it depends on what age your child is. Are they going to want to climb up those shelves? And are the things on the shelves things that they can pull down? I would always put kind of the lighter toys up higher so that if they pull them down and it falls on their head, it's just a box of scarves, you know, it's not a big deal. Here's a nice space for a very small young person if you climb up on that. Only a few play objects. That's the other thing. The play objects at RAI, when we talk about the play objects, we want them to be open-ended objects. I'll get more in detail the objects, but take a look at some of the objects in here. I like this gate, and it's all beautiful and open space, and I wanted to point out this cozy little corner. In all of our spaces in our RAI centers and in my toddler center, we always try to have a cozy little corner where if you're starting to run down or you just need a moment, you can go, you know, kind of snuggle up over there if that feels good to you. And also there will be, depending on the child's level of development, some sort of gross motor, something I can crawl over. Looks like the space is set up for very small children who are maybe just crawling and maybe can get over that bolster right there. I put this one in because it is gorgeous and beautiful, and do not torture yourself trying to attain this. it's very beautiful. It's obviously from a center, but it's lovely. It's very Montessori with all the wood and all of that. This does not have to be your home. This does not have to be what you strive for. It doesn't have to be picture perfect either. I like that all of this is using a regular storage, but it has just all these little things down here for this little person, right at their level, just set up for them. And I love that they're looking at the book and it's upside down. That doesn't matter to her. She's just taking a look at it. I wanted to talk a little bit about outside spaces. It doesn't have to be a beautiful backyard. If you have a porch or a balcony or something like that, you can set up something like this. Now, rocks, of course, this guy's a little older. When you're doing little tiny kids, you don't want, you're looking at a choking hazard potential here if you have a child that puts everything in their mouth. And then, these all I think are edible plants, so you're good there. But, you can make an outside space even if you just have a little patio or a balcony, something fun to play with. This is a lovely outside space for a couple of toddlers. They got it all set up with table and everything for them. And I liked this outside space too. Had some great gross motor stuff to do. This up here is not something the kids are going to get a hold of, but I thought that these little touches were interesting and fun. You can make it your own, whatever you want to do. I put this one in for two reasons. This lovely gate shows you how you can gate off a whole section of your house. This nice big gate. This is too busy for me. I always say it's like when you come into your workspace and your desk is just covered in stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even think. I would have trouble thinking in this space. this space is too busy for me. And I'm wondering if it would be too busy for a small child. And again, look at these toys are not toys that I'm going to say are going to promote independent play. And I'll talk about toys in another minute. This also is another gate form that you can use in your space. But I'm also going to say the first thing that's going to happen is these toys are all going to get dumped out, and this space is going to get too crowded and too busy. This is a fine size, I think, for a child, but if you're thinking back to that picture with the little bolster in it and how selective the toys were placed and how there were so few of them, play objects, I would take these baskets and stick them outside and put 5 or 10 of the toys in there. This I put because they're using the back of their couch or this bookshelf to section off a portion of their house. So you can get creative like that when your children are getting bigger, and section off, you know, parts of the house with the back of the couch or something like that. You don't have to necessarily have a whole big gate. Here's another kind of gate that worked for this thing. And again, we'll talk about why these aren't the kind of toys that I'm necessarily looking for right here. This toy and these, I'm thinking those are lovely, but we'll talk about them in just a second. So that was the yes spaces that I wanted to share with you. Just to point out some ideas. I want to talk a little bit about the play objects that we were seeing. In RIE, we say that passive toys make active children, right? So if the toy is not doing all the work, the child has to do all the work, right? My favorite example was, I think it was 2 Christmases ago. I was at a toy store and there was a fire truck and it was going woo, 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 and it was driving by itself. And it would run into the wall and like turn around and then run over and run into the other wall and turn around and go woo, woo. And all the kids were standing there going, oh, that's awesome, I love it. But they were just standing there, right? There was nothing for them to do. The toy was doing all the work. So if I give you like a block with 4 wheels, you've got to get down on the ground and push that car. And now you're using your gross motor, you're crawling around, and you got your fine motors holding on to the car, and you're going woo, 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 woo. So you're vocalizing now. And then you can change that block of wood from a fire truck to a police car, right? Or to, you can change it to mommy's car. And then you can pretend play when mommy was yelling at that guy on the freeway, and you can play therapy through the stuff that mommy said when she was mad at the guy on the freeway. So that's why the passive toys make such active children. We don't want the toys to do all the work. We want them to be open-ended toys. So there's not a beginning or an end to that play, right? And so it does, the child picks this toy up and combines it with this other toy in a way that we never thought we would, you know? So that's really, and it doesn't have to be fancy, and they don't have to be, they don't all have to be wood. I like different kinds of textures. You know, I like the metal and the wood and the silicone and all of that, you know, kind of stuff. And it can just be stuff that you have in your house. It can be a mixing bowl and a wooden spoon and, you know, things from your kitchen and, you know, the coasters from your coffee table and some stuff like that can be really fun. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to break the bank or, you know, buy everything off of Amazon. There's a lot of opportunity. And I know you all have seen this because you are RIE and all parents in RIE classes. So I know you've seen the kind of toys that are at the RIE Center, the kind of play objects we have there. So the couple things I wanted to discuss real quick about play spaces is age specific. So of course, before your child is crawling or rolling around too much, then the play space, the free play space doesn't have to be very big. They're not very mobile. So a pack and play can be a lovely play space, safe play space for a very small child. That's great. Once they get mobile, then you're going to have to give them a little more space because they have to do that movement, right? And my recommendation is to set up the play space before they get moving too much. Because if the gates were kind of always there, we don't get as mad as we do when the toddlers get a little bit upset when the gates suddenly appear. Oh wait, I used to be able to walk over there and now I can't. And so if you've passed that point, you've passed that point, and we just set a new limit. But if you're at the point where before we're really up and moving, you might want to get that play space established so it's just kind of their area all the time. And then as they get older, as you're approaching your threes, when you're 2.5 and you're 3, then your play space is going to expand to much more of the house. Like, Magda said that in that clip, your free play space, and then you go into the room where there's like the TV or whatever, and you start setting limits. Well, for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years now, you've been setting those limits with your child, and now they probably can get out of the play gates with ease by the time they're 3. And now the free play space opens up to more of the house, and it's more that these limits have been established in the house, and the child no longer tries to dig all the potting soil out of your plant, because we've already established that limit, and they're 3, and we can talk about it at that stage. So that's kind of when your free play space starts to open up a little bit. Where in the house to put the free play space is kind of depending on your house. It's hard for the free play space to just be their bedroom that's kind of at the end of the hall in the house, totally separate from everyone. They start to feel like it's too far away, like they're not in on the action, or they're not with the family. That can be a free play space for them, but you might also want to have or need to have one that's closer to the center of the house where things are happening. If you do have the bedroom, you might also need a living room space. You don't need both if you just want to do the living room and keep the bedroom for this is where we sleep, which is also a very good idea to have that be a separate spot. I know we kind of always are kind of doing this little puzzle as the children grow and as our families change of what fits here and what fits there, and it is kind of a constant puzzle, but the play space needs to usually be more central for the child to accept it. Some children are like, hey, I'm fine off in the West Wing, but some kids very much want to be in where the family is sort of rotating around the play space. So that is my discussion on where and what the play space is and play objects should look like. I want to move on because I'm going to run out of time. I want to move on to another key element of this. I want to stress that independent play does not work without the other important pillar of RIE, which is educaring, which is how we care, our caregiving philosophy for the child. The only way a child will go happily into their play space and play independently is if they feel confident that their caregivers will take care of their needs. So it's important that we're reading their cues sensitively and responding to their needs in the way that in an accurate way, that we're reading them accurately and responding quickly to their needs. And then our caregiving times are connected. We are 100% there with that person. We're not also multitasking and doing other things. We are 100% there in those diaper changes, in those feedings, in that bath time, while we're getting dressed, while we need to emotionally co-regulate. We are 100% there in those times and communicating and talking and telling them what we're going to do and asking for their cooperation to the level that they can give it to us. Asking for them if they can pull this tab or unbutton that, or which Sakis do you want, kind of thing. So we're connecting, total 100% connection, cooperation and communication in those times. So the great thing is that it's in these times, 50% of the time I give 100% of my attention. The other 50% of the time they play, and my attention can be diverted to other things. But in this caregiving time, I'm giving this child 100% of my attention. And so they know that those needs will be met, you know? Of course, you know, when mom reads me and she takes care of me and we have our wonderful time and we fill up on that connection and that love and that attachment, so that when we're put in that free play space, yeah, I feel great. I was just with my mom for a whole bunch of time and we did some great stuff and my needs have been met and I can play. And so you develop that trust that, yep, she's always coming back. She's always going to be there. Dad's always coming back. Dad's always going to be there. They're going to take care of me. I can play. I can freely play and learn. It's only when that trust is there and they have been cared for with that attentive care that they can then move to that free play, independent play, learning time and feel comfortable with that. So you have to have the educaring pillar, the caregiving, attentive caregiving pillar for the independent play to work. Now, some of you are saying, oh, this all sounds great. My child will not do this, right? And I understand, I've been there. I'm gonna give you some ideas about how to encourage independent play. All right, so you've probably heard this, but I'm gonna go through it real fast anyway, that we have 3 kinds of time with our children. We have want something time. I want something to happen. I want you to eat this dinner. I want this diaper to be changed. I want you to get in the car seat. I have an agenda. The grown-up has an agenda. Then there is wants nothing time, where I can just hang out and you do what you want to do and I will follow your lead. But I am engaging with you. I am there to play with you, although I'm letting you be the writer, director, lead actor in the play. And I'm kind of the supporting part, and where I'm just like, oh, what do you want to do now? Okay, then I'll hold this part, and then what happens? You know, and I follow the instructions of the child. And that is my wants nothing time. And then there is the independent playtime, where I am not engaged. Now you can do quiet observation in both wants nothing time and independent playtime, where your wants nothing time, you gotta tone it way down and kind of be super boring and watch them. But independent playtime is also where you do quiet observation time, where you will watch your child some of the time and let them play, but also you can step away at independent playtime and then they just play. So how we're going to use wants nothing time, how we're going to encourage independent play is, we can't, with some children, after you've had your lovely caregiving, you can take them to their independent play space and they're perfectly happy to go. But if the child is reluctant, if the child has a resistance, and this may fluctuate with the same child, the same independent play space, and the same parents. Sometimes we're having a attachment and we really want to be close to mom or dad, to our primary caregiver. And so it will fluctuate whether I'm happy to be in my independent play space or not. But when it is a time of resistance, then you can go into the play space with them and have some wants nothing time. What do you want to do? Okay, I'm sitting here and I'm playing with you and you're doing your thing, and I get progressively more boring. You know, my part gets smaller and smaller in the play and I do less and less stuff until I move myself to quiet observation time. And then when you're less engaged, when the child is less engaged with me, and I see that you've got some other ideas, then I will say, and I will always say, I am going to do something. I will never sneak out when you're not looking. I never just disappear when the child is not looking. I'll always say, I'm going to go change the laundry, and I'll be back. And I always do exactly what I say, because we're building trust here. That's the important thing, is that we're building trust. And I will go and do the thing I said I was going to do. I like to have it something that they can sort of notice that I'm doing. Like they know I went to the laundry room and I came back. So that they can observe, you know, oh yeah, that's what she said was going to happen and that's what happened. Now, if your child's really having a hard time with it, you have to make these really short. You know, I'm just going to go get a glass of water for me and bring it back. And then it can get a little bit longer, after time, but initially when we're building this trust, it has to be really short, like I'm going to go do this and then I'm going to come back. Um, and then, it can happen again. Oh, I sit and I watch and I observe for a little bit, and then now I have to go put some things on for dinner and I'll be back. And when you walk away and the child complains and the child starts to cry and be upset, that's their prerogative. They have every right to do so because you're awesome. You're their primary caregiver. They think you do fulfill all those needs that they want. And they want to know that they would love for you to just hang out right there all the time. And they get to tell you that, and you can acknowledge their, what's happening. I hear you. You sound upset. I'm going to go. I'll be right back. I'll be back when I've finished the thing. Hopefully the thing that they can observe, or they have some sense of. Saying I'll be back in 5 minutes means very little of anything to them. And if you can't think of anything off the bat, sometimes you can't. Think of the thing to tell them that is clearly observable for them. Then I might say I'll be back in a little bit. And then, but like I said, initially the times are going to have to be short. We're going to build this trust. We're going to let it grow a little bit and a little bit. And if they complain to you the whole time, that's their prerogative. That's absolutely their right to do so. You need to try to remain as unruffled, as calm as possible during that time for them. They're in a safe space. That being a safe space, a yes space, is good for them. That you stepping away is good for you. They get a chance to say that they're upset about it. I would acknowledge how they feel about it. You're upset. I see. I'm going to go to the kitchen and I'll be back in a little bit. I'll be back after I get dinner started or something. And then, if you hear them ramping up, you can say, I hear you. But I wouldn't keep going on that. I hear you. I know you're upset. I hear you. That doesn't help you, or it doesn't help them either. You can just acknowledge it and I'll be back. And then they will learn to trust that, yes, you will be back. The other thing I wanted to really quickly go over is why this is such a great thing. It's a great thing now for us in this time when we're in our house together all the time, constantly, and we get very little breaks from each other so that we can all do our own thing. It's really great there. But it's also really great in the long term. It's great when your kids are 7 and 8 and 9 and 15, and, because that's what I have right now. I don't have 7, 8. I have 15 and 12 and 10 and 6 right now, and it's really great when they can come up with their own ideas of things to do. And they right now, really, I'm a materials manager. It's, Mom, I want to do this. Okay, well, we have these things. Mom, where are the paints? Oh, yes, the paints are over here. Because they're always having ideas of what they want to do and the plans they have. And so it's great in the long term, but it's great in the long term too. It's great in the kind of adults that we're making here. Eventually, we're making problem-solving adults. When I see a small child play independently, and they have the thing that they think can go in the other thing, but they don't know how, and I see them try it all those different ways, I am watching them problem solve right there. And I'm thinking, what a great skill that's going to be for them when they're a grown-up. I mean, right now, in this time, we have seen so many people problem solving we've been problem solving. How do we still get Rye out to you guys? I know my teachers of my kids and my teachers at my school have been problem solving. How do we still educate people? The world is problem solving right now. What great skills we're making. It's also about making adults who know how to focus. Adults who know themselves and their limits, and who are confident in understanding themselves, and confident in who they are, and just confident in willing to try and try again and not be beaten down. We're really allowing this independent playtime to grow these people with these wonderful characteristics that will just, they're there if we just give them the time and the space to independently play and develop them. So that is independent play for me. I hope that's been helpful. And we will open this up to Q&A, I believe. So please, if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. Is that, I don't know if you can use the Q&A part, or you can just put them in the comments section if you have any questions. Or you can raise your hand. I don't know how that is going to work exactly, but if you have any specific questions.
This is Michelle. You can raise your hand. You can use the chat, or there's also a Q&A option. And in fact, here we have another one, a question right away. We are moving soon. What is the best way to find RIE classes in other locations?
That is a great question. We have on our website a list of associates and where they are. We have 66 RIE associates now. Not all of them teach classes, but many of them do. And the emails for all those associates are on that website. Under the associates, there's a little bio of the associates and then their emails there. So if there's an associate in the area where you're moving, then that's great, and you can contact them and see what they have to offer. If there's no associate where you're moving, then I encourage you to get some of the books and read up on theory, and there are lots of Facebook RIE. I think you're all, because you're in a RIE class now, you're all in a Facebook group. So it's a great place when the theory that you're reading isn't matching up with your practices. That's a great place to sit it out and be like, hey guys, I'm trying this, but it's not working, or something like that. That's helpful. Let's see.
Okay, next question is, what is the best practice for allowing a 9-month-old to play independently with a 3- and 5-year-old in the house that can be distracting for her? Her safe spaces in the living room so older sibs can walk around freely.
Yeah, they are so fascinating. And it's going to continue to be that way for your smallest one, because those older kids, they're just doing such fun and interesting and awesome stuff that you so desperately want to get out with them. Now, it's a balancing act. That's the thing, is when people ask me, like, what's it like to be a mother of 4, I say it's a lot like that guy at the circus that's spinning the plates all the time, and you're like going, oh, let's keep these going. And so you've got 3 of them, and you can bring the 9-month-old out to play with the other ones, absolutely, but this is not going to be free play, independent playtime when they're playing 3 and 5 and 9 months together. You're going to be there supervising, making sure everybody's staying safe. It can be quiet on your part. You can be observing and mostly just setting limits for safety purposes, but it's not independent playtime. And you need independent playtime, and the 9-month-old needs independent playtime. So there are times when you're going to have to say, it's time for you to play in your play space. And the 9-month-old may object because you're leaving them in their play space, but they may also object because the 3- and 5-year-old are right there and they want to play with them. They'll usually find a way to connect, with each other through the gate, and then you have to set the limits with the older kids about, like, Legos don't go in the play space, none of your toys go in the baby's play space. So, you have to set limits with the older ones with that. But there are times when I'll say, yeah, you're ready to go out and play with them. You're going to be in your play space. I'm going to go cook, and the kids are going to play out here. And then they get to protest that if they feel like it. Let's see. Next question is, any advice about language to use regarding the school closures? there's no rye for this is for a 3-year-old. There's no, again, there's past 2, rye has no official stance. And, we don't really have an official stance, I don't think, on particularly school closure, talking to them about that. But always, we're always very much recognizing how aware and brilliant they are. It's not like they're not going to recognize the changes, so just pretending that things aren't changing, things aren't different, doesn't do us any good. They're so smart and aware, and I would just recognize the differences in their life. I also tend to keep it simple, or I don't elaborate a lot. So I'll be like, oh yeah, things are different. You used to go to school all the time. You're home now. We're home a lot. And if you're pressed, because a 3-year-old can talk to you, if you're pressed, then you can answer the next question honestly but simply. We don't have to go into big explanations about what the viruses are and how people get them and what happens to them. If we're pressed, then we answer the question, but simply and honestly. I hope that helps with that one. This one, let me see this one. I have a 3-year-old child who loves playing with me. I've set up a space with lots of toys for her, but she often does not want to play there. Should I consider simplifying and clearing away a lot of the toys and rotating them out? Absolutely. Absolutely. A great thing about a play space is that it is there's room to play. And like I said, it's a lot like if your desk, if there's too much on your desk when you come to work, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Or if it's disorderly, then it's like, oh, it's crazy. I can't handle this. If there are a select amount of toys placed interestingly, then it's easier to engage in that kind of stuff. I really love setting up the play space. I feel like that's my contribution to the play. Since I don't jump in and play, direct the play of the children, I feel like a lot of times my contribution to the play is what I put out there and how I put it out. And so what to put out and how to put it out comes from your sensitive observation of your child. If my child is really into stacking stuff right now, I'm going to make sure there's some stacking things, or that they're stacked in an interesting way for them, or in an engaging way. Or if my child is really starting to play with the baby dolls, I'll make sure I have those there. Or if they're starting to gather and put things in buckets and purses, I have to have buckets, and I have to have slightly smaller things that can go in buckets that are not choking hazards. So yeah, I would definitely simplify the play space and then select some items. And then you can observe and see what's getting played with and what's not getting played with, and what can we try next time. And rotating them out, because I see that she's not going anywhere near these things. So let's take those out and put these other things in. Now, the trick with that is that, right now she's totally into blocks, but if there's never any dolls in there, then she can't show me that she wants to play with the dolls, So you've got to keep some of the other elements in there just so she can go that way when her interests grow and change. So that's an idea. Is it better to have a play space near her crib or in a common family area? Well, the thing about the crib and the play space is that we do want to make a distinction between sleeping and playing place. This is where you sleep, this is where we go to sleep, and this is where you go to play. And if it's right next to a crib, it might blur that line a little bit. It might be harder to pull her away from the place that, I see you're getting sleepy and it's time to go, and we need to start our nap time routine. Maybe a little more difficult if the play space is right there, is all that I'm thinking. I think you can do that if that's what your house and your situation in your house dictates. I think it's possible. But I prefer to have a play space in the more common family area, as so she feels part of the family and part of the world while she's simultaneously doing her own thing. Hope that's helpful. This one says, just realized that my yes space isn't so yes, and I'm not sure how I can create 100% yes space for my 21-month-old twins. The space in our living room that is gated off, and that is where they spend most of their day. At this point, they're used to things they aren't allowed to mess with, but there are things that they cannot change, such as floor to ceiling wooden window blinds. If we have to take them off completely, the window glass panels isn't 100% safe. I'm just wondering at what stage, since we have already started to incorporate the whole house, would our yes space still suffice? There are times when they do test, but they also know those things aren't safe the majority of the time, and they don't mess with those things. So it sounds like your guys are, at 21 months, are starting to get the rules a little bit. So you can you've already sort of set those limits. So the answer to your question is, how do I know, is going to be sensitive observation. That is almost always the question. How do I know when? How do I know what? How do I know? Is because I'm observing them and they don't ever touch the blinds. Now, can there be a time when they do it and you're not there? Yeah, but at 20 months old, they've probably discovered that space a lot. And if they don't go there, and if you're really feeling confident that they're not going to go there, then I'm not going to worry about that so much, because you're getting to that almost to stage where they start to listen to I'm consistently setting the limit here, so I'm not going to explore that anymore because the limit's consistent. I've learned that. So I'm going to say the answer to your question is sensitively observe them in their play space, and then you'll be able to discover if you truly do have any hazards that you're going to have to address, because I want you to feel confident walking away. I also want to protect the child, obviously. Of course, I need the children to be safe, but also I need the parent to know that the children are safe when they walk away. I have an 11-month-old who is great at playing independently as long as the caregiver is in the room. As soon as we leave the playroom, even if it's just for a glass of water, he gets hysterical very quickly, which I feel has made us less inclined to keep trying. But we just need to keep trying, right? Any suggestions? Yeah. So this is challenging because you're just stepping away and it goes 0 to 60, like big feelings right away, and you feel like, oh no, wow, that's a lot. And nobody wants their little one to feel bad about that, and you can 100% acknowledge his feelings. Wow, you really don't want me to go. It's really upsetting for you. And then you go because you know that he is safe, and you know that what you are doing is fine, and that it will be good for him. So I would do where you go in and you let him get comfortable and you watch him play and you engage less, and he into play, like you said, he's great at independent playing when you're there. And then I would not sneak off. I would always say, I'm going to go get the glass of water. And then he will go, yeah, I know it's hard. You don't want me to. I'll be back after I get water. And then step away and let him, have his feelings. I would sensitively observe how he's crying and the sounds I'm hearing. Is it 100% at peak level the whole time, or does it fluctuate? Sometimes you can learn a lot from how they're objecting, but I would keep trying. And I think one of the key things is knowing that you're doing something good by establishing this. As hard as it is when he objects so strongly, you are doing something good for him, and you're doing something good for you, and you're doing something good for the whole family. So I would keep trying, and just go slowly, give him little bits, and then try to lengthen them a little bit at a time. Our 1-year-old is getting really interested in climbing. He likes to climb on me, and then when I'm sitting during Once Nothing time, I wish we had a pickler triangle or another climbing thing, but we don't, and at the moment it's difficult to order anything right. Well, there are, you see, these are these things, like sometimes you just have a kid who loves to climb. My second was a climber. He will literally get, even today at 12 years old, he'll get a library book and he'd rather read it in the top of the orange tree than on the couch where his sister's reading. It just, they have to climb. So we recognize this need in the child, and we need to, like, you're doing the right thing by trying to think of something, trying to find something for him to climb. I don't know if you have an outside space. Outside makes, nature often makes a lot of great climbing opportunities, but you can even, 1-year-old. So yeah, so we're just almost walking time. So even a couch cushion laid on the floor, or 2 couch cushions to crawl up over, that make kind of a lump to crawl up over, as long as the floor isn't like super hard, because it's probably going to take a little tumble off of a couple of stacked couch cushions. But if the floor is a nice thick rug, then it's not going to be too bad, of a bonk in that space. So even something like that, I like to have firmer things for climbing on, but like the like you said, the Pickler triangle is great, but like, it's hard to order one right now. So you can sometimes find something that will be like a couple of couch cushions, or an old coffee table you can cut the legs off, or so it's got to be stable. It's got to be stable, and it can't have sharp edges. So you got to look around at it like you're a 1-year-old. Like, look at the object you're going to have them climb on like you're a 1-year-old. Where am I going to fall off to? How sharp are the corners? So that we don't have to make things like, there is an amount of acceptable risk, in that if I fall off the couch cushions onto the soft rug, that's going to be a bonk, but that's an acceptable risk to me. Now, we all have different levels of what we think acceptable risk is. And the fact is that you and maybe your partner may have different ideas of what acceptable risk are. So you may think falling off 2 couch cushions for a bump is acceptable, but the other partner may not think it. So you're going to have to find, the key is to recognize in yourself if you lean too conservatively, or if you're maybe like me and you're like leaning a little too, they'll be okay. Which are you, and which way do you need to sort of hedge your bets? This says, I saw a Pickler triangle in one of the safe spaces you showed. We have one, but we removed it from the safe place. We were not able to be there with him. It is acceptable risk. So this again is going to be, because you have a padded square floor there, but it still makes you nervous. So again, it's going to be about sensitive observation of your child. There may be a period of time where the Pickler triangle, like when they're just pulling up, it's great because they're only stepping up on the first bar, and they're not, they're not going to go any farther because you've observed them and that's as far as they're going to go. There may be a time when you don't feel comfortable with the level of risk that they're taking. Now, a lot of times we feel very confident and right that usually a child will do what they feel is safe. And if they're not getting any kind of, oh, come on, you can do it, when they don't feel safe, or be careful when they do feel like exploring, then they will do what they're being told by their body that feels like, oh, that's too much risk, I'm going to back down, right? But if you feel uncomfortable, again, I need the parent to feel like they can walk away. If you are afraid that he's going to go explore that triangle and try to get over the top, he's right at this time when he's trying to do that and you're not comfortable with that, then that Pickler triangle may only be for a little while, may only be in the safe space when you're in there for once nothing time, when you feel like you can spot and observe and be there with him to help keep him safe. And then when you've observed that he's sort of mastered this, that he's really confident in this, then you will feel like, oh, the Pickler triangle can be back in the safe space when I step away, because I have observed that he's awesome at this now. and I feel confident, and it's how I feel too. It's not just about the child, it's how the grown-up feels too. At what age or when developmentally is it a good time to flip the steps over for the rocking boat? It's more developmental than age. So if your child is seeming super confident with climbing up and down the steps, and you've also, you don't kind of want to, if they're interested in that and they're really working on those skills, you don't want to take that away until you've observed that they're like really got that, and that's not really a challenge anymore for them. And after the steps are not a challenge to them, then you might think, oh, you know what, let's turn this over. And it may be a little bit the same thing as the triangle, in that for the first few times that you turn it over and make it a boat, you kind of want to hang out and see how it goes, and want to sensitively observe how your child is dealing with this boat. And, at first they get on very tentatively, like, oh yeah, and getting off is a little bit tricky. So you're there the first couple times, and then you flip it back over, and they go to nap, and you flip it back over, and when they come in their play space that you need them to play independently during this time because you need to go make dinner, it's not a boat right now, and they may even, depending on how old, if you're at boat level, your child's probably at verbal level, maybe, and they may be able to say to you, I want a boat, and you're like, yeah, that boat is really fun. I'm not offering the boat right now. I'm going to cook dinner, and I'll be back in a little bit. And see, I acknowledged what you wanted. I acknowledged that how you felt about it, but I also set the limit, and I'm not offering it right now. I got one of my colleagues wanted to add that a flat box or of books works as a good low climbing objects, and that's an awesome suggestion. Like if you just get a big Amazon box and fill it full of books and tape it shut, that's a brilliant solution to a small climbing structure. Thank you, Kira. That's great. Okay, well, I think we're doing all right. That's 8:30. I think I've answered most of the questions, I think. I hope this was helpful for everyone. Please, this was our first time doing a webinar, and we are experimenting. So if you have any suggestions or comments or ways we can do this better for you, ideas, please put them in the comments section for us so that we can get better at this. Because we want to make this good for all of you. And we will be doing another one. I think our next thing we're doing is Eileen Henry, a RIE associate, is doing a sleep webinar. And that's going to be opened up to the public. It's not just a RIE families, RIE Center families webinar, but we will be doing another RIE Center families webinar also. So if you have ideas, things that you would like to hear about, things that you might want a webinar on and feel like it would be super useful, please put those in the comments as well, because we are open to suggestions. We're experimenting, we're problem solving, so we can always collaborate as well and cooperate. So if you have ideas about what you would like to see, what would be better, how we could do the format better, please let us know how we did and what we can do better for you. Thank you so much. It has been a joy and a pleasure talking to you. I hope that this was helpful. Have a wonderful evening and stay safe and healthy.